My name is Claire Bennett. I am 35 years old, and I work as a pediatric nurse, the kind of person hospitals call when everything falls apart at 3 in the morning. Last spring, at my parents' 40th anniversary dinner, my sister pushed a bread basket toward my 7-year-old son while her own kids cut into their steaks. My father did not even look up from his plate when he said I should have packed my boy something to eat. I smiled and said noted. That dinner was only the start. What I found weeks later, buried in a mortgage file and a worn ledger hidden in my father's desk, made that bread basket feel like nothing. And what I did about it cost me every seat at that family table. I would do it again without blinking. The restaurant was the kind of place our town saved for graduations and anniversaries, white tablecloths and soft music. My sister Diane had booked the long table by the fireplace and called ahead to order for everyone. The food came out like a parade. A ribeye for her daughter, who is 8. A ribeye for her son, who is 5. A lobster tail for her husband Mark, who kept checking his new watch. Those steaks cost over $100 each, more than my first car payment. Then the parade stopped. Nothing came for my son Ethan. He sat there, hands folded, staring at the empty space where a plate should have been. Diane did not even pause her conversation. She said, "Oh, we did not order for your son," and slid the bread basket toward him like she was doing him a favor. My mother studied her wine glass. My father cut into his steak and, without looking up, said I should have packed him something. Ethan picked up one roll and held it carefully with both hands, the way children do when they are trying not to take up space. 7 years old, and he already understood his place in this family. Something in my chest went cold and quiet, the same feeling I get at work right before I start giving orders. I smiled at my sister. I smiled at my father. "Noted," I said. Then I raised my hand and asked our waiter one simple question that changed the temperature of the entire table. "Are you still serving the full menu?" He said yes. I ordered my son a ribeye, medium, with mashed potatoes and the biggest dessert on the menu. On a separate check, just his and mine. The table went still, the kind of stillness my family falls into when they sense something needs correcting. My mother leaned toward me, voice soft as sugar. "Sweetheart, you will split the main bill with Mark, won't you? Your father is on a fixed income." For 3 years, every one of these dinners had been called Dad's treat, and every time the bill came, my father would pat his jacket, my mother would murmur about his heart, and the check would slide down the table to me and Mark. Then Mark started forgetting his wallet. Not every time, just often enough that I stopped being surprised. I had done the math on the drive over. Birthdays, holidays, 2 anniversaries, a christening. I had quietly funded this family celebration since Ethan was in kindergarten. When the waiter set that steak down in front of my son, and he looked up at me like I had performed a magic trick, I stood up. Not fast, not loud. I do not do scenes, I do announcements. "Ethan and I are going to finish our dinner," I said. "I am paying our check, just ours. And starting tonight, the family bank is closed." My mother's mouth fell open. My sister laughed once, sharp, waiting for a punchline that never came. Ethan ate every bite of that steak and most of his dessert while I drank my coffee slowly, refusing to be rushed. Then I left cash on the table, tipped the waiter generously, took my son's hand, and walked out past 40 years of marriage and a table full of $100 steaks. Driving home, I believed that dinner was the worst thing my family had ever done to me. I was wrong by $9,400. Let me back up. I work nights on the pediatric floor. Calm is not my personality. It is a job requirement. Ethan's father left when Ethan was 2, quietly, which was the kindest thing he ever did. I have raised my son alone in a small apartment 15 minutes from my parents' house. Self-made is not a brag when you are a single mother, it is just the schedule. For years ago, my father had heart surgery. I slept in a hospital chair for a week, and when he came home, I started sending my parents $400 a month for his medication. Nobody ever asked me to stop, so it never stopped. 3 years ago, in that same hospital, my mother pressed a pen into my hand and asked me to co-sign my sister's SUV loan, $38,000. "It is only a formality," she said. "Diane will pay every cent." For 2 years, she actually did. I was not a doormat. I said no to plenty of things: a timeshare, a business loan for Mark, money for a hot tub. Each no cost me a week of my mother's wounded silence and a month of relatives calling to check on me. I paid the $400 because it was cheaper than watching Ethan get frozen out of Christmas. I thought I understood exactly what my family cost me. I only knew the visible numbers. This part of the story is about a house. A small blue 2-bedroom, 6 minutes from Ethan's school, with a crooked porch and an oak tree perfect for a tire swing. I had saved $28,000 for the down payment across 6 years of night shifts and skipped vacations. Every deposit had a purpose, and that purpose had a bedroom window facing east. The first time I brought Ethan to see it, he pressed both hands to the glass like he was checking its pulse. "Which room is mine?" he asked. I already knew. My loan officer, a no-nonsense woman named Diana, liked my file. Steady job, 12 years at the same hospital, clean payment history, strong savings. All I had to do was pass underwriting. 2 weeks after that anniversary dinner, my phone rang, and the results came back with a shadow on them. But first came the calls. The morning after that dinner, I woke up to 11 missed calls. My mother's voicemail led the way, her voice trembling the way it does at church and during confrontations. "You embarrassed your sister in public after everything this family has done for you." My sister posted a photo of wine and sunset with the caption, "Some people make everything about money," praying for them. Mark texted me 2 words: "Not cool." I did not respond. I typed and deleted 11 different replies and finally sent nothing. The silence felt like freedom and theft at the same time. That is the part nobody tells you about setting boundaries for the first time. It feels like stealing something because you were raised to believe it was never yours to take back. Sunday night, my mother sent one final text. "We will discuss this at dinner next week, sweetheart. We are still your family. Everything in this family is accounted for." I read it as a peace offering. It was an accounting statement. I went to that dinner because Ethan wanted to see his grandfather. We were barely through the appetizers when my sister announced an opportunity. Her daughter had been accepted into a private school, deposit due Friday, for $1,000. She looked at me like I was a vending machine.
"You are her only aunt," she said.
I set down my fork.
"No."
I did not attach an explanation because explanations just become handles for people to grab onto. My father pushed back his chair and walked outside. My mother asked me to help her in the kitchen, which in our house was never a request. She ran the water so no one could hear and told me, gently, the way you explain rules to a child. "Every family runs on contributions, Claire. Diane contributes the shine, the grandchildren the holidays. You contribute the stability. That is simply how it has always worked, and you have always been so good at it." On the drive home, my phone lit up with my loan officer's number, and my stomach dropped because loan officers do not call on a Sunday evening with good news. At her office the next day, Diana turned her monitor toward me. "2 flags on your file," she said. The first I expected, my sister's SUV loan was 90 days past due, and every missed payment had landed on my credit. The second flag hit differently. A Visa card, balance of $9,400, opened 4 years ago, billing address my parents' house. Payments made on time, every single month, for 4 years. Never late, never sent to me. Someone had opened a credit card in my name, and then someone had protected it faithfully, the way you maintain a machine you plan to keep using. Diana asked gently whose handwriting might be on that application. I did not answer. I was staring at the date it was opened, the same month as my father's surgery, the same month I was sleeping in a hospital chair holding my mother's hand. That night, I pulled my credit reports from all 3 bureaus and charted everything the way I chart patients, facts before conclusions. The recovery phone number on the account was my parents' landline. 4 years of transactions told a story. The pharmacy, the grocery store, my mother's hair salon every 5 weeks, and that same restaurant, again and again, including the night of the bread basket. My nephew's $100 steak had very possibly been paid for with a card wearing my name. I did not throw anything, though I wanted to. I made a spreadsheet instead. I drove to my parents' house on my day off with printouts in a folder. I wanted to watch my mother's face when she saw them. My mother looked at 4 years of fraud laid out on her own kitchen table and showed no fear, no guilt. Only administration. Your credit was the best in the family, she said. We put it where it would do the most good. Family shares. I asked if she understood what she had done. She straightened, offended, but at the wrong thing. Not one late payment in 4 years, she said. I protected your name like it was my own. She truly believed she had not stolen anything. In her mind, she was managing a shared family asset, and the asset was me. I told her the account needed to be closed, that I was buying a house. She laughed once. A house? Who paid for your braces? Who paid for gas to nursing school? You are an investment, Claire. Investments pay out. My father stood in the doorway the entire time, drawing the same cup over and over, saying nothing. I told myself he did not know. I needed at least one parent who did not know. Monday morning, I did 3 things at my kitchen table that could never be undone. I canceled the $400 monthly transfer. I froze my credit at all 3 bureaus so no new accounts could ever be opened in my name again. And I filed the formal dispute on the card, which set a process in motion that no family dinner could stop. The bank would send written notice, not to me, but to the address on file. My parents' house. 3 days later, my mother texted asking if I had forgotten the medication transfer. I had not forgotten. I had simply remembered for the first time that my father has a pension and a paid-off house and a wife with a genius for arithmetic. That Saturday morning, my mother showed up at my door, holding the bank's open dispute letter like a summons. You reported your own mother, she said. I told her I reported a card I never opened. The bank decided what that meant. I told her I needed to get my son to swim lessons and closed the door gently, which in my family is the loudest sound you can make. The family group chat exploded within days. In my mother's version, I was a stressed single mother, confused about accounts I must have agreed to years ago and forgotten. The word paranoid got used and never retracted. Then, on a Tuesday during my shift, the nurse's station phone rang. A collections agent, asking about my sister's delinquent auto loan because she had listed my work number as a reference. My family had finally reached me at the one address I had kept clean. I called the agency back and calmly informed them under federal law they could not contact my workplace again and got a confirmation number for my records. A coworker found me in the break room afterward and just said sit, tell it all. So for the first time I did. The card, the ledger, the jar. All of it. Then my loan officer called with a deadline. The bank would clear my liability before my rate lock expired, but only with a notarized affidavit and a police report filed within 10 business days. Without it, the balance stayed mine, my mortgage broke, and the blue house was gone. I drove to the police station and sat across from a tired, decent detective in the financial crimes unit. He told me the truth plainly. A report is not the same as handcuffs, he said. In family cases, prosecutors rarely pursue charges unless the victim pushes hard. Most of these end in a quiet restitution agreement. But he could not take the report without a name in the box. The affidavit sat on my kitchen table for 3 full shifts and signed. I was not afraid of my mother anymore. I was afraid of becoming the kind of woman who files paperwork against her own mother and calls it love. Sunday evening, my sister texted me directly for the first time. Dad's in the ER, chest pains. Happy now? I drove straight to the hospital, half terrified daughter and half nurse who had already clocked the timing of it all. His blood work came back clean. Anxiety and reflux, a body keeping books its owner refused to open himself. I stayed anyway. At 2 a.m. he woke and held my wrist. He told me about his wedding night, how my mother made him drive past her mother's house so she could drop one last envelope in that jar before their honeymoon. She does not know another way to love, Claire, he said. It is the only language she was ever taught. Out in the hallway my mother was waiting under the exit sign, eyes red, and she made her final offer. Withdraw the dispute. Settle the card quietly. Resume the monthly payments. Come to your father's birthday dinner Saturday and sit in your seat. And none of this will ever be spoken of again. If you file those papers instead, she said, you will not have a family and Ethan will not have grandparents. You will have done that to him. Not me. I asked her quietly if she had ever once calculated what the family owed me. She looked at me with genuine confusion, as though I had asked her to divide by 0. I paid my mother until the day she died. She finally said, "It's your turn." That is the order of things. A coworker sat me down later that week and asked me one question. What are you more afraid of losing, your family, or your role as the one who always handles it? I could not answer. That silence told me everything. She drove me to a notary the next morning and stood beside me while I signed the affidavit. My whole name, the one they had been spending for 4 years. The stamp came down like a diagnosis. That Friday night my son climbed into my bed holding his stuffed dinosaur and asked if his grandparents were mad at him because of the steak. 7 years old, already trying to make the first payment on a debt he never created. I told him nobody pays to sit at our table. Not him, not anyone. He owed nothing. I decided to attend the birthday dinner Saturday, not to fight but to close it properly, face to face. Same restaurant, same table by the fireplace. This time a booster seat waited for Ethan, along with a kid's menu and crayons like a peace offering. The machine understood exactly what generosity looked like. It had simply never priced it for us before. As dessert approached, my mother tapped her spoon against her wine glass. Before the cake, she said, smiling at me, "I have a gift for you." A cream-colored envelope, tied with gold ribbon. For one small, foolish second, I let myself hope it was an apology. Inside was a single typed page titled Family Repayment Plan. Withdraw the dispute within 48 hours. Assume the Visa balance privately. Resume monthly support, now raised to $500. In exchange, Ethan receives full family access, holidays, birthdays, grandparents. A line waited at the bottom for my signature, the date already filled in. My mother folded her hands. "Sign it, sweetheart, for your father's birthday, and this family will be whole again." Family means nobody counts what it costs. I stood up. I did not raise my voice. "I know about the jar on your mother's windowsill," I said, looking only at her. "I know about the rent you paid from 16 years old. I know what it cost you. I am not going to shame you for it, but the jar stops here." I told her plainly what Monday would bring, the affidavit, the report, filed exactly as planned. "I am not asking for handcuffs," I said. "I need my name back. That is not revenge. That is arithmetic. You're kind." Her voice cracked for the first time in my life, in public. I set the unsigned repayment plan down beside the bread basket, left cash for our 2 meals with a generous tip, and walked my son out past the fireplace and the white tablecloths. Nobody clapped. Real life does not clap. But our waiter, the same one from the anniversary dinner, gave me the smallest nod at the door. Monday at 9 a.m. I signed my name at the notary, and my hand did not shake. It was the first signature I had ever read fully before giving it away. In the parking lot afterward, my father caught up to me, moving faster than a man 6 days past a chest pain scare should. "I want you to know I see all of it, Claire," he said. "I always have." He never finished the sentence. I decided to keep it anyway. The following week brought 2 calls. The first from my loan officer, almost cheerful, telling me the disputed balance had been suspended from my liability and my rate lock would hold. The blue house was mine to close on. The second was from the detective, confirming the report was filed, and that these cases almost always end quietly, in restitution through lawyers. No handcuffs. Just paperwork. Good, I told him. Some victories are paperwork. Those are the ones that hold. 3 weeks later, I held 2 keys on a paper ring. Moving day was loud and small and perfect. Co-workers hauling boxes and a second-hand sofa through the blue front door while I stood on my own porch and let them help me, something I had never once allowed myself to do. My father came by for 20 minutes, hands in his pockets, approving of the house the way he approves of engines. On his way out, he pressed a folded $20 bill into Ethan's hand and whispered, "Don't tell Grandma, and don't write it down." These days, Saturday mornings belong to a small diner 4 blocks from our new house. Ethan orders first, every time, a stack of pancakes with extra whipped cream, and nobody asks if he has earned it. Nobody slides him a bread basket. Nobody writes anything down. Last Saturday, my phone buzzed mid-breakfast. My sister, asking to borrow money, tight on cash. I did not feel anger. I did not feel satisfaction. Just a familiar diagnosis, walking through a familiar door. I typed one line back. "No, but if you ever want out, I know the way." Then I turned the phone face down next to the syrup, where phones belong on Saturday mornings. The ledger is still sitting in that drawer on Fairground Road, I imagine, still open, still waiting for its next entry. But its oldest account is closed for good, and its newest one ends with a boy who will never know his shoes once had a price tag written in someone else's careful hand. Love that keeps a ledger was never love at all. It was only a loan. And the bravest thing you can do is close the book, pay for your own pancakes, and teach your child that a seat at the table is a birthright, never a bill.